When I was a kid, maybe 10 years old, I was placed in a dark room with a set of the shittiest headphones ever and forced to drink a chalky liquid and press a button whenever I heard a beep amidst a nearly deafening background of white noise. I'm convinced this was originally devised to test ESP abilities in children. I found out I could cheat the test by looking for a red dot in the reflection of a window on the door. After performing extremely well on this test, I was placed in a different room in my elementary school every Wednesday with 2 other children for an entire year. I remember this like a vague dream. A couple of years later, I brought it up to my parents and they swore they didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Either I'm being gaslit by my loved ones, or this is evidence that I have finally escaped the metaverse, while my dear family and friends rot away in their artificial gloom, a tortured soul unable to escape its caustic flesh. After all, the void poster will inherit the world. Whether or not this scenario had any effect on my life, I think it is very clear there are truths being hidden from us. Maybe my favorite video I ever made, simply titled Factual Conspiracies, talks about the atrocities the government committed and hid for dozens of years, and I made a compelling case that it keeps happening. Here I'll make another such case. Imagine, hypothetically of course, there's a group you estimate kill around 100 of your citizens every year. They plan on doing this for all of eternity. You notice them planning what appears to be a larger than usual attack on you, something that might kill 2,000 of your people. You also calculate that in doing so, they'll enrage the global community to such a degree that you will have justification to use your superior military strength to wipe them off the face of the planet, ending the attacks forever. Do you A, allow them to carry out the attacks and use it as justification to potentially end their attacks forever, call it altruism, or B, fight to prevent the attack knowing that you will certainly lose more lives in the long run, call it egoism? Obviously, this is a far-reaching, but perhaps not so shitty of an analogy as you might think for the current Israel-Palestine conflict. After all, I too hate half measures. We know from first-hand reports of people who guard Israeli borders that this Fortnite-style attack would have been impossible not to spot. Is it really so out of the question that this could be a false flag operation, especially considering the only way Israel has ever won land in the first place is by repulsing other countries' offensive attacks? This isn't a defense of Israel, by the way. I think the atrocities committed by Israel are barbaric. However, the Hamas are subhuman, and honestly there is no sympathy to be had for either side. Especially true for people the Hamas would instantly kill, or worse. During negotiations for wounded and captured peoples led by Egyptian negotiators, Hamas declined a ceasefire, claiming that America sent 300,000 artillery shells from Israel's stockpile to Ukraine, and that Israel's current artillery stockpile is at only 20% capacity. They claimed the ceasefire was really just for Israel to buy time, which isn't so unrealistic. Artillery, after all, is 90% of an army's effective firepower, and airborne munitions aren't as effective and cost vastly more. If what Hamas said is true, and it's incredibly difficult to fact-check, then perhaps this wasn't a random attack, but a well-timed attack perfect for luring Israel into signing checks they can't cash in hopes of urban warfare in the Gaza Strip with basically unending volunteers. This explains the hundreds of hostages taken. This attack wasn't an invasion of Israel, it was an operation to grab hipster hostages, to lure ground forces into an urban area with virtually no artillery support against a larger, less equipped guerrilla force, aka Israel's Vietnam. Israel obviously can't use their remaining artillery because they have done a fairly good job at making a whole host of enemies in the Middle East, and at the same time, they will have to compete for weapons with Ukraine. And guess who is allies with Russia? Basically all of the Middle East. It all comes back full circle. If the US took 300,000 rounds, and that's 80% of the total artillery shells, that means Israel has about 75,000 rounds left. The 7-week Gaza war used 32,000 rounds of artillery alone, or about half of Israel's current artillery supply. Remember, Israel's 150,000 strong standing army is both genders, and good luck holding onto your dwindling social media support when you start sending 19-year-old girls into intense urban warfare shot on iPhone. Maybe forcing Israel to take a more measured approach is a blessing in disguise. Or maybe Israel blankets the Gaza Strip with white phosphorus. It wouldn't be the first time. Anyways, with Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, something's brewing, and I'm not liking the bouquet. In all seriousness though, pre-Ukraine Russian war was the most peaceful time in all of human history. Wars like this happen all the time. You only care so much because mass media makes it easily spreadable. In the words of Epictetus, never mind, I forgot. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye everybody.
On the night that we met, he's going off about something that you said, 'cause she doesn't get
I'm starting to think about having to eat my neighbors. You think I like sizing up my neighbor? How I'm going to haul him up by a chain? I will eat your ass first. I swear to God, it's the last thing I do. I'm going to get my hands around your throat. I will eat your ass.
Wanted me, I wish I knew.